Hey guys, I know it's been a couple weeks, a week or two since my last video, but I just haven't been feeling the vibes,. But I'm back, and I'll most likely be posting once every 2 days, maybe every 3 days. But today I'm going to go over the general election, and then after that I'm going to go over the Senate election, and which are both very crucial because we already know the Democrats are going to keep the House, so we don't even really need to worry about that election. But we do need to worry about the general election, and we need to worry about the Senate election. So let's get right into the video. So Joe Biden's numbers have been slipping a tiny bit in some states, and those states include Georgia, kind of Arizona, kind of Pennsylvania. He's actually been going up a tiny bit in Michigan. His numbers are slipping a little bit in Minnesota. His numbers are actually going up in New Hampshire, and they are slipping a tiny bit in Nevada, and they are also slipping a tiny bit in Florida, and I think a tiny bit in Wisconsin. And obviously in Ohio, as we see Donald Trump has taken a lead there. And then he has actually taken an even higher lead in North Carolina, which I want to go over that a little bit. And then the districts, yeah. But basically, this will be kind of like a general election based off polling data. And for this, I'm going to use 538. Very reliable polling source. They do their own polls, and they get a lot of polls from other places, and they make sure that they are at least C-rated pollsters. So let's start this off with states that aren't very swingy, and I'm going to start that off with Virginia. So as you know, 7 to 15% is likely, 2 to 7% is lean, and then under 2% is tilt for me. So let's start off with Virginia. That is a likely. Joe Biden is leading by 10.7%. His lead is actually going up. Not that much. He did have a 7.6% lead, 8.1, and it's just gone up ever since. So yeah, that's not really a state that we need to talk about that much. Let's see, what state should we do next? I'm going to do New Hampshire, because that's actually interesting. At the moment, Joe Biden is leading by 9.2%, which I would consider to be likely. But the odd thing is that just a couple months ago, he was only leading by 3%. And just recently, he was only leading by about 7.5%, which, isn't too much, especially considering that usually the polls do swing for the Republican Party, in most states, that is. But a 9.2% lead is very good for the Joe Biden campaign. And I do not see that number slipping, especially if he's gaining in New Hampshire. Actually, I forgot to put Missouri as a top-up, as a toss-up, because that's interesting, and Mississippi, and South Carolina, and Alaska, and I don't know about Utah, but I'm also going to put those two as toss-ups. I think that's good. I'm not going to put Utah or Montana. But, okay, Missouri. Missouri, this is actually very surprising. Donald Trump only has a lead of 5.5%, and he's not even at the 50% line. So, that would be lean. This is off polling data, so don't take my word for everything. Obviously, I think Missouri will at least be likely Republican. But I think that is very interesting, only a 5.5% lead in a state like Missouri. And Mississippi. There aren't a lot of polls that go on here. But the most recent poll has Donald Trump leading by 9%, which in my characterization would be likely, which I think is very accurate because Mississippi is actually a Democratic-leaning state, which is quite interesting to me. So let's go up to Colorado. Joe Biden's numbers are slipping. Not that much, though. He had a 17.2% lead, which would be safe for me. But now, ever since it has dipped down to 13.3%. Again, not that much of a change. I do not see Joe Biden losing Colorado at all, which would be likely. I'm in toss up. But what I think is interesting is at the beginning of the campaign season, in April, even, Joe Biden was only leading by 4%. And even before that, in March, he was only leading by 2.1% or 2.7%. And I think that that is very fascinating, that Joe Biden's lead has gone up that much in a state like, or well, not in a state like Colorado, because it's not surprising to me. But, yeah. Now let's look at New Mexico. Right now, the latest poll, it is likely, but Joe Biden is leading by 14%. And in the poll before that, but that was taken in April, he is leading by 12%. So, obviously good for the Joe Biden campaign. I mean, I can see why there's not much polling done in New Mexico. But, yeah, a likely state, very close to safe. But, yeah, let's see. Next I'm going to do Alaska, just because I don't expect, or actually, wait. Toss-up does need to be Arkansas, too, because it's based off polling. But, let's see Alaska. Donald Trump is leading, okay. This is interesting. Two polls very close to each other shows one Donald Trump leading by 1%, and one Donald Trump only leading by 6%. So if we take the average of that, that's about 3%. That is very interesting, because in my characterization, that would be a lean state. And I find that very wowing. And the poll before that, 3% Donald Trump leads. Donald Trump does lead in all of these polls, not by very much. Right now, it actually shows that Alaska is closer than Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which I'm pretty sure it won't be. But you never know. Because, I mean, there are a lot of states that are switching a lot more to the Democratic Party that include Alaska, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Mississippi, possibly Arkansas, and possibly Louisiana. So let's do Arkansas next, because I believe that it will be safe Republican. But as most of you know, the only poll taken in Arkansas does show Donald Trump only up by 2%. Which, in my characterization, would be lean, because I do 1.9% or below. But, yeah, that's very fascinating, that is very close to a lean state, or a tilt state. That boggles my mind. Okay, now South Carolina, another state that I would consider safe Republican. Donald Trump is leading by 8.1%. And that's interesting to me, that in South Carolina, his lead is larger than Missouri, Arkansas, and Alaska. But so in my characterization, that would be likely. Not surprised, I think it will be. But yeah. Let's see, what state should I do next? I'll head over to the districts, Maine's district and Nebraska's. So Nebraska, District 2. Oh wow, that surprises me. Joe Biden has a lead of 7%. So that would be likely. Do I think that'll happen? No, I think just because of 2016, I don't know if Hillary was leading there, because I don't pay attention to the districts too much. But if Hillary was leading there, then yeah, I would say Donald Trump would win it for sure. Maine's 2nd district. Joe Biden has a 3% lead. And then the poll before that, but it was taken in October 2019, he has another lead of 3%. So I'm going to say it's a lead of 3%, which would be lean. Also think that one will go to Donald Trump. Wouldn't surprise me if it did go to Joe Biden, but also would not surprise me if it went to Donald Trump. So now let's look at Nevada. Nevada. Joe Biden has a lead of 6.5%. Obviously a very good lead. But it used to be likely for him, because he had a lead of over 8%. And now it has slipped down to a lean, which, I don't know. I find that surprising that Nevada is more lean than New Hampshire, but, yeah. Okay, I don't know what state to do next because all of these are actually pretty close, but I think I'm going to move on to Minnesota. Minnesota. Joe Biden has a lead of 7.6%. Obviously a pretty good lead, but what interests me is that he has a higher lead in Michigan than he does in Minnesota. I find that pretty interesting. But yeah, he did have a lead of 10.5%, 10.2%, and it has dipped down to about a 7% lead. 7.6% lead, I believe it said. Let me see. Yep, 7.6. So, it would be likely. So, I mean, yeah. Still very good for the Joe Biden campaign, though. Let's go Iowa, because that's a state that I think will be lean Trump. And it's actually not. According to polls, Donald Trump is only leading by 1.1%, which would be a tilt. I think he will win it by a lean margin, maybe about 4%. But very interesting that it is a tilt state. Yeah, I don't want to focus all of our time on that, though. Let's see here. Oh, and I accidentally pressed on Indiana, and Indiana would actually be a likely state. I mean, not surprising, but, okay, let's see here. I'll do Michigan. Michigan, obviously a likely margin. I've talked about Michigan a couple times in this, so you guys should already know this, but Joe Biden has a lead of 8% on the dot there, which, doesn't surprise me because Michigan is a lot more liberal than a state like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or Ohio. Surprisingly more liberal than Minnesota in the polls. But, yeah. Okay, let's see here. There's not much states left to do, but, I will move on to Ohio. It's a closer state than some others, but I think I'm going to do it based off of if I think it'll be likely, lean, or tilt. Like tilt, if what I think is tilt, I'll do last, even if it's like a likely, So in Ohio, Trump is leading by 0.5%, obviously very, very narrow. Half a percentage point. That's how much Joe Biden is leading in one of these other states. But I do think it will go to Donald Trump by about 2 percentage points, maybe 3. But interesting to see that he has a very small lead there, even though Joe Biden has led earlier on by about 2.9%. Now, let's go over to PA, Pennsylvania. And I went up when I should have went down. Okay. Pennsylvania, actually closer than Wisconsin. Joe Biden is only leading by 6.6%, which would be lean, which I think it will. I think Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania by 4%. Personally, even though he was born in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is more the Republican than you would think. Yeah. I mean, I think the Midwest in general is moving a little bit more towards the Republican Party, and then the South is moving a lot more towards the Democrats. So, yeah. Okay, now let's move over to Georgia. Georgia. Then after that, I'll do Florida, just because it's right next to Florida. And Donald Trump does lead there. Not surprising, but it is only by 1.3%, which would be a tilt. That's actually good for Donald Trump, considering that Joe Biden was leading by about 1.7% earlier on. But Donald Trump did have a more commanding lead earlier on by about 3.7%, but still. You know what? I'll do Arizona instead of Florida. So Arizona, I think it will be in the tilt column, but according to the polls, it is in the lean column. Doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think Joe Biden will win it, but by a very narrow margin. Okay. Now let's do FL, Florida. And Florida is also in the lean column, with a lead of 5.9% for Joseph Biden. I'm actually very, very surprised that Florida is even over 2% for Joe Biden, because on election day, Hillary Clinton was losing Florida by 0.2%. It did swing 1% in Donald Trump's favor, but even if it did right now, Joe Biden would still win it by 4.9%, about 5%. So that is very interesting to me. Now let's do, you know what, why not Wisconsin? Okay, Wisconsin. Wisconsin would be a likely. Joe Biden has a lead by 7%. So that is a lot better than Hillary Clinton. But if it did take the same exact swing, Joe Biden or Donald Trump would win it. But I do expect Joe Biden to have a better lead by November, and I do expect the polls to be a lot more accurate. A lot of pollsters have been working to make their polls a lot more accurate. And the polls will not be as bad as 2016. In Wisconsin, though, you never know, because they swung by 7.3%, I believe, which is a pretty big margin. I mean, if that's how bad pollsters are, like, geez. Okay. First, I'm going to do NC, because I'm going to leave Florida for last. And in NC, in RCP polls, Joe Biden is leading there by 4.7%. In 538 polls, he's leading by 1.9%. And I think 1.9% is more likely than 4.7%. Yeah, I mean, tilt doesn't surprise me. I would not be surprised if it did go for Donald Trump, which I think it might, but yeah. Now, the big state. Who do you guys think it'll go for? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It will go for Joe Biden. Yes, according to polls, Texas will go for Joe Biden by 0.5%, half of a percentage point. I would not rely on this too much because Joe Biden's percentage is 46.6. If either candidate does not have a polling of over 50%, they most likely they could slip up in the state. And if they do have a polling of 51%, say, they will most likely win that state. And that's what I go off of most of the time. So I'm going to try and make this one quick because I don't want to make the video too long. But I'm going to go to the Senate map. And I'm not even going to use polls. I'm just going to make a general Senate prediction. And I have no idea what the frick is going on with this map. Okay. I'm not even going to use polls. I'm just going to do a general Senate prediction. You guys do not have to watch this part. I'm just going to do this for the people who want to. But, okay. Let me just fill out these safe states. Actually. Okay. Let's get this one going. Now in Virginia, it's not Tim Kaine running here, and Tim Kaine is the more popular senator. So personally, I think that it will be likely. Would not surprise me if it was safe, but for now, I'm going to put it as likely. Same thing with Kentucky. I mean, Mitch McConnell, the incumbent, obviously everybody wants him gone. Even if you're a Republican, you would probably want him gone too, for a better Republican. But I mean, I think he will win re-election, and if anything, it'll be a lean state. But I think it would be likely. Same thing with South Carolina and Mississippi. Obviously, both states leaning more towards the Democratic Party, but not yet. And with Alaska, based off of the polling, I think it will be likely as well. Same thing with Texas. I mean, Texas, the polls for the Senate race are a lot better for the senator who's running than Donald Trump. I mean, probably has about a 7-point lead, I think, the senator. So, if anything, I would put it as lean. So, and Alabama, I'd put it as lean just because the Democrat is an incumbent, surprisingly. But I do think at the end of the day, the Republican will win it. Okay, Now, there's one kid or somebody running here. His last name is Purdue. I think it's called Caleb Purdue or something. But I think in that race, it will be Lean. And in the other race, the incumbent Republican is a woman. I forget her name. All I know is that she's going under some heat right now for a supposed Nazi tattoo, and other weird stuff that I don't want to get into because I do not want this to get restricted. But I think that other one will be Tilt, and then I think Iowa will be Lean, and I think Kansas will be Tilt. You know, I forgot to put that as safe. But yeah, I mean Kansas, Chris Kobach. I don't know if I pronounced that last name right, but he ran for governor. He failed, but since this is a presidential election year and Kansas goes for the Republican Party like a lot, I will say that it is a tilt because why not? And Minnesota, I think, will be likely. Democrats do better in the Senate elections than they do in the regular general election. Same thing in Michigan and New Hampshire. Yeah. And personally, I think Colorado will be safe. Again, Democrats usually do better in Senate elections than they do presidential elections. And with Arizona, I think that will be a lean. I believe Mark Kelly is leading by about 7% in the polls. I think he'll win by about 5%. And then we go over to Maine. I think that will be lean. Susan Collins, obviously, very unpopular now. She went to actually being the most popular senator to being the least popular. Mostly because of the Brett Kavanaugh vote. But, yeah, I think that race will go to Sarah Gideon. And for NC, I do believe that will go to Cunningham by actually a lean margin. Right now, one of the recent polls showed him leading by 10%. Very large margin. But, yeah. Now, Montana's tough. Because Steve Daines, obviously incumbent, it's an election year. And Montana is a very red state. But obviously, Democrats do way, way better in Senate elections in Montana than they do in general elections. And Steve Bullock is he is a very popular Democratic governor from there. So this one's kind of hard to call. If I had to put it as anything, and I could not put it as a toss-up, I would have to give it to the Democrats. It's I don't know, but Steve Bullock is just very popular, a lot more popular than Steve Daines. So yeah, but that is all for today's video. I doubt anybody watched all of this, but I would just like to say thank you for stopping by. Make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you're from TikTok, in case it does get banned somehow. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow or the next day.